approval of the minutes of 8/25/2022. Any edits, modifications, changes?
I didn't have any.
Kevin says no. Ben says no.
Actually, I do.
Oh, there's Russ. You're on mute, Russ. Russ, you're on mute. Okay, there you go.
Yep, working on it. Sorry.
Okay.
There's only so many multitasks he can task.
Wow.
Where the hell am I? Page 4, line 20.
Yep.
Is something missing there?
Ms. Danza also suggested that even if the location of the silt fence has to move, that there is office review prior to any disturbance. What do you?
I don't know. I was confused reading it. So
Okay.
it sounded better when you said it than when I read it.
Do you want me to put prior to any changes? I think the goal was disturbance, that before they put anything in the ground that we went out.
Yeah, that you have to approve it.
Yeah.
And that's what I wasn't picking up.
Okay. Do you want me to do agent review and approval?
Sounds good.
Okay. And approval prior to any disturbance. Got it.
So next page, line 31. Isn't that except for numbered roads?
Scenic, yes. So labeling everything as scenic except for numbered roads.
Because we can't do them, they're state roads.
All right, got it.
And then on page 8, line 28, I think we should add and excavation crews, survey and excavation, because that's the expensive part to be mobilized.
Yep.
That was it.
Yeah, I got him.
Any more?
No, that's
Anybody?
it.
Page 8 of 8. I hope not after page 8.
Okay. All right, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Farrington,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Osmanno.
Abstain. Okay, so first up is, let me see. Stormwater management permit, 20 Meadow Lane, map 56, lot 4, construction of new single-family home. In accordance with the provision of the Southborough Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southborough Zoning Code, Chapter 174, Section 13.5, the Southborough Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 15, 2022 at 7:00 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of Custom Concepts LLC for construction of a single-family home at 20 Meadow Lane, map 56, lot 4.
Okay. Good evening, Peter Bemis, Engineering Design. So I'm
Evening,
here on
Peter.
behalf, hi, and that glow above my head is not that I have become an angel, that's for damn sure. So I apologize. I'm gonna have to do something about that fan.
Smash it.
So, yeah, thank you. So Custom Concepts LLC is the proud owner of 20 and 22 Meadow Lane. And we needed a stormwater permit because we will exceed 50% activity on this lot. Melissa, were you gonna be able to share, or do I? You're gonna do it? Okay, great. That's a good vantage point. Thank you. So what we're doing here is we're picking up 100% of our roof water, and we've got a filter strip along the edge of the driveway for construction control, stormwater management. We've got a construction entrance apron. We've got erosion control barriers on our low limit of work area. I wanted the commission to understand that we did put an erosion control barrier on the northern end of the site, And there is work activities that will go on at a future date beyond that, because part of the proposal for the remainder of this land is to remove the runway, create an open space parcel with the board's, planning board's approval, and create, it's not really an open space development. I think we call it a flexible development in Southborough on the land that's to the east of this area. That approval has not been, or actually that filing hasn't happened yet, but that is an easement through these two lots. And we're not going to advance work beyond that, the point that we have with the erosion control barrier on the northern end. And you can just, thank you, Melissa, panning it. So that's a sewer line that will go through the rear of these two lots at a future date once the planning board has reviewed this. The Board of Health has already reviewed the system components, and they're set with that. We're just not, we haven't filed anything with planning board yet. So this lot requires an on-site sewage disposal system that's shown on the plan, and pretty much grading will extend over the entire lot. There's a meadow here today. There's actually a airplane hangar on this lot that's going to be removed. That's primarily on 20. And there's a driveway that goes through this site as well, for those of you that might have come to see it. Pretty much everything else follows kind of standard details. There is a second sheet to the set which outlined the existing watershed and the proposed watershed, and provided details for the infiltrated drainage system. We did provide you with drainage calculations. We provided you with a SWEP. We also provided you with an example of the completion of the SWEP, if you will, showing you where there's placeholders for photos and whatnot during construction. And all that was part of your packet. The abutters were notified, and a hearing notice was put in the newspaper. So we're good to go. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thanks. Do we have a DEP number?
We don't need that for this mark. It's a non-wetland issue. It's just an SMP.
Oh, sorry, stormwater
application.
permit. Excuse me, sorry about that.
Okay.
These are just SMPs, okay. Any questions from board members? I see head
I just
shakes.
had one thing that confused me when I was looking through the packet. There's
Yeah.
a mention in one of the inspection reports about the Ashland water treatment facility. And
I
hope that's
apologize.
a copy and paste
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, you got me.
Okay.
I'll fix it. Melissa was really kind. She caught another one. I guess we both missed that one.
I'm just
Thank
skimming through and I saw Ashland.
Thank you, Kevin. Sorry. We tried.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Are we good to go, Melissa?
Do you want to ask the public first, and then we should be
Oh,
good?
sorry about that, yeah. Is there anybody from the public has any questions or comments on this one?
You can use the raise hand feature and I can move you up. I'm not seeing any hands. But yes, otherwise good to go.
Okay. I guess we can close the hearing. For your motion to close the hearing?
So moved. Moved.
One of you want a second?
I'll second.
Right, I'll call that a Kevin Ben. Got it.
Right. All those in favor?
Barrington.
Yes.
Gregory.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Balsamato.
Yes. Okay, we can move on to next door here, which is 22 Meadow Lane. In accordance with the provision of the Southborough Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southborough Zoning Code, Chapter 174, Section 13.5, the Southborough Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 15, 2022 at 7:10 p.m. by a virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of Custom Concepts LLC for construction of a single-family home at 22 Meadow Lane, map 56, lot 26.
Again, Peter Bemis, I'm sorry. I thought you would actually open them both, Mark, so I do apologize. So 22 is east of 20. Pretty much follows the same pattern. Four corners will have downspouts and directed to infiltrative drainage systems. Filter strip on the driveway, the same limit of work on the northern end of the site. And we are showing proposed grading going off this site because there is an adjacent project that will be developed at some point in the future, we anticipate, and those are the grades that we would want to have achieved. So everything is just tied together. So thank you. And we're happy to answer any questions again.
Okay, get any questions for lot for S&P 22 Meadow Lane, rather, not lot, but 22 Meadow Lane?
Just the owner of 20 and 22 has site control of the adjacent lot there to the east where that grading is proposed?
They actually do not, but they do. They purchased it from the company that does, and they are, I guess, I wouldn't say partners on this, but they have been working together. It's probably a good term. And those grades are what we've told the people who own the rest of the land that they have to achieve. That's why they're there, Ben.
Okay.
Is that those are the grades we're basically telling that landowner that they need to do.
Yeah, I guess it's not a notice, so we don't have any concerns about the ownership issue. I was just, but because of that, it raised the question in my mind that I just figured I'd ask.
Sure, yeah. We're hopeful that the planning board would like this project because I would very much like to see the chunk of open space we're going to be able to create here, because there'll be a couple of access points for access to DCR land. So.
Oh, great.
Any other questions, comments? No, okay. Anything from the public? Again, raise your hand and Melissa will let you in.
I don't see any hands.
Okay.
Oh, I do see one hand. I
Right.
apologize. David Williams, you should have the ability to speak.
Hi, thank you. Peter, this is David Williams, 25 Meadow Lane. I'm interested in your comment about the removal of the runway. You're talking about directly behind 20 and 22?
Yes.
Okay. All right. It obviously doesn't serve a purpose any longer. As you were probably well aware, our leach field is up at the runway grade, but further to the east. So are you also showing the proposed soil I know it's not what the purpose of this hearing, but the proposed soil absorption system to the west, would that be something that's being planned as far as the other lots that remain in the larger area?
That's correct. That's why we're illustrating it, because there's a relationship between the two projects.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I can't see it that well. Is the grade being raised on the two lots that are being developed, or are you showing that they're actually down the hill from what's further to the east?
The grade is higher to the east, so there is a grade. There is a filling, if you will, between east to west.
Yeah, so that where 20 is basically where the other house was torn down. I believe 22 is not quite to where that building is. That's directly across the street from our house, because I believe there are two lots even before you get to that. But
yeah, that is the old house. I misspoke, but the hangar is probably just to the right of 22, because that's about where that driveway.
Right, I think that's the case. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for correcting that.
Okay. That was all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else? No. All right, do I hear a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Harrington?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Passamato?
Yes. Okay. We have 3 minutes until our next hearing time.
I do see Joe Lasano here for 169 Parkerville, and that should be very quick because it was just a minor confirmation of the plants from last time.
Okay, I need to recuse myself.
Okay. All right, Ben, is that all right with you if we talk about that?
So I'm
Yes, excuse me.
I'm gone.
Okay. All right, so as Joe hopefully loads in, just as a reminder from the last time, he had proposed a restoration plan for us, and we were just gonna have Joe look at them and make any recommendations. So Joe did, and I think we did one minor tweak. I don't know why he's not loading in, I'm sorry, there he is. But since Joe did take a look and have since finalized those small amendments. So I recommend the commission kind of set this plan in motion. The only thing that might be, we want to decide tonight is if we want to have any monitoring and for how long that would be. Typically for mitigation, it's about 2 years. And we ask for kind of an annual success rate report every year.
Melissa, could you just pull up the plan while we speak with Mr. Lozano?
Absolutely.
Just refresh us.
Apologies, I didn't get it up beforehand. Right. I'm going to zoom in, I promise.
Okay, first, good evening, Mr. Lozano. Thank you for joining us tonight. You and Joe Orzel Joe was able to provide a review and get back to you, and you've incorporated his comments. Do I have that correct?
Yes. He requested I move a couple of different plants around, and then there was just like I made a mistake on the Latin name of I swapped 2 of the Latin names of some of the plants, and I fixed that since I last talked to him.
Oh, great. And what Melissa was talking about, we sort of define success as a 80% survival rate on restoration projects.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like we would be looking for, just at the 1 year mark, just a quick report, not particularly formal, but just indicating the current status of the plantings, and then a closeout at the year 2 mark. That would be involved just a walkthrough by Melissa, just to take a look at the plants and verify there's an 80% survival rate.
Okay.
And that'll be the end of it, if that's acceptable to you.
Yeah, I think if you scroll up just a hair on the plan, I might already have a note about I don't know if I specify a percentage, but I do. Oh yeah, proposed plantings shall require a 2-year monitoring period. During this time, any plantings that do not survive shall be removed and replaced by the owner. That's my planting note number 3. I guess if you want, we were already planning on doing something along those lines, so that's fine.
Okay. And with that, are there any questions, comments, concerns from the commission? Okay, and just to do it, if there's anybody here from the public who wishes to speak on this matter, please use the raise hand function and we will promote you up. Okay, not seeing anyone. So it looks like we have things well in hand. Melissa, was this a formal enforcement order? Oh.
It wasn't a formal enforcement
Okay.
order, but it was a formal violation. So I would recommend the commission make a vote to the effect that we discussed tonight with these as an approved plan.
Okay, so I guess we'd be looking for a motion to approve the planting plan as recently updated and as discussed tonight with the conditions that we discussed regarding monitoring.
So moved.
And is there a second? Uh-oh, Russ is frozen. Oh no, I can't second.
You could even
Yeah.
make a motion if you wanted, yeah.
As chair, I did. Well, then I'm going to second.
All right, we still have to wait for us anyways.
Oh, no.
Oh, there he is. All
There we go.
right.
You're frozen, Russ.
Second,
All those in favor, Farrington,
Yes.
Gregory,
yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right. Mark, out in the universe, you may return.
Okay. And Mr. Lozano, thank you again for joining us tonight. It sounds like we've got a plan going forward.
Thank you. Just real quick question, Melissa. Are you gonna send me some sort of email that like says like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. All right,
Yeah,
sounds good.
by Monday, I'll get that to you.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate
you.
that. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, next up, RDA for 2 Spring Meadow. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, September 15th, 2022 at 7:20 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a request for determination for a project located at 2 Spring Meadow Drive, map 2, lot 72. For the applicant, Mark Menendez. The project description is septic replacement in addition to single-family home.
All right, so the homeowner is here. They're representing themselves tonight. So I'll just do a quick overview. This is on Spring Meadow Drive. This is off of Prentice Street. The wetland for this particular project is across the street at Spring Meadow Drive. So they are replacing or kind of installing a new septic so they can decommission the existing cesspool. And then they've also decided to do an addition off the north and east of the home in congruence with this. So they are in front of us for an RDA. I did go out there and I put out my comments to you all. I didn't see anything of necessarily concern. Just as a finding of fact, I did see that this catch basin over here that does discharge into the stream is full. So that might not necessarily be a bad thing, but it's something for the commission to think of in the future. I did talk to Karen at TPW about it. She's looking into if that's town owned or not. But otherwise the work is pretty substantially conforming to what we would normally see. I did note on my review that this site is on the smaller side. So they are just under that 50%. But I think most likely they'd probably want to do some landscaping that would probably take them over the 50. So I would recommend to the commission issue a waiver under the SMP bylaw. And this is kind of consistent with, I think it was Pearl Street and one other that we've discussed recently for these very small lots where the majority of the project is actually bringing it up to Title V compliant septic. So other than that, I think that's all that I have to say.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I do. So the addition, I'm assuming, Mr. and Mrs. Menezes, you're looking at a frost wall and slab rather than a full basement under the addition. Is that correct?
Yes, we won't do it's gonna have a small cross space. We won't do a full basement. We're gonna keep the foundation exactly as is and just adding to it actually.
Okay, and that might even make it easier. Now, do you know if it's the type of foundation under the addition? Is it going to be concrete piers with posts, or is it going to be a concrete frost wall with a slab under the addition?
The whatever it's you guys can think is better, but I think it'll be like form the walls and
okay,
for concrete to be there.
Okay,
It could be better.
the only reason that I ask is and Russ could probably chime in on this too. I'm concerned that between where the erosion control barrier is proposed and where the excavations going to take place, there just won't be enough room to do the excavating necessary to get the concrete work in. And for that matter, there's going to be some stockpiling of the spoils from the excavation that are going to need to be stored somewhere. So all I'm suggesting is that the erosion control barrier be pushed back just to allow the work to take place and allow stockpiling of material, before it's hauled off of the site. Unless Russ tells me that I'm crazy and there's plenty of room there.
And
No,
I
you're
think, yeah, I think the number one reason for that was just to stay under the SMP threshold. So if the commission's okay with them going over that, because of the sheer size of the lot, then I can definitely work with the homeowners on a more applicable location, to make sure they have enough room.
We've in fact been talking about changing the SMP regs to address this very issue. So I'd be comfortable with that. But Russ, am I?
Yes, you're on target.
Okay. So Mr. and Mrs. Menezes, on the right-hand side of the plan of your proposed addition, the erosion control barrier is shown so close to the proposed addition, there just won't really be room for a backhoe or excavator to get in there and physically do the digging necessary. And also everything they dig out, of course, they have to pile up somewhere. So that erosion control barrier just needs to move to the right enough to allow equipment to get in there. Other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Just on that side then, so I would say, another 10 feet or so.
In the front.
Exactly. I think that would
Not
be
on
fine.
the front necessarily, just on the right side.
Well, it would be the front of your house as it faces Spring Meadow Drive. As we look at the plan on the screen here, it's sort of on the right. Melissa's showing with the cursor.
Okay,
With
so the
that
front.
longer line just needs to move towards Spring Meadow Drive by about 10 feet.
Okay.
And this being an RDA, I suspect, Melissa, we could capture that in a condition.
Sure, absolutely. Just our standards, erosion controls to be reviewed and approved, prior to construction.
Perfect.
Would we have to present it to the board again, or can we just bring, okay,
Just be me and you.
that's great. I love you. So you're so nice.
Perfect.
All right, any other questions? Comments? Okay, anything from the public? Just raise your hand and Melissa will promote you in.
Seeing no hands.
No hands. Okay, so this is an RDA. So I think what we can do here is issue a negative determination with the appropriate comments and the things that we just brought up here tonight.
Yep, absolutely. So I'll have the comment about the stormwater management bylaw and the thresholds, and then also about the erosion controls
In the catch basin.
in the catch basin.
Do we need
As a
to
board-
do, I'm sorry, just a procedural question. Do we need to do a second vote to waive the SMP requirement?
As long as you're comfortable with voting it into a finding of fact within the RDA, then I can memorialize it that way.
Great.
All right, so do I hear a motion on the table?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Hasamato.
Yes.
All right, you guys are all set. I'll touch base with you by Monday just to let you know the final steps.
Thank you so
Thank you
much, all.
guys.
Have a
Thank you.
great
Good
night.
night.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to NOI for 10 Presidential Drive. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, September 15th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 10 Presidential Drive, map 82, lot 25 for the applicant and owner, Stephanie Butler. The project description is construction of landscape area, stone steps, and retaining wall, and rebuilding of rock walls.
Tom, if you want to give us a introduction, I think that would be good.
Okay, yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
So, good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Schutz from Goddard Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Andrew, who submitted the notice of intent for the property. And then I'm also here on behalf of the applicant, who is Stephanie Butler at 10 Presidential Drive. I have a presentation. I don't know if I could share it, Melissa, or if you have a. All right,
No, go right ahead.
perfect. Thank you. All right, we'll start with a brief overview of the property and the existing conditions out here. So as you can see, this is the property right here. It is 2.4982 acres, and it consists of a single family house, a driveway, a walkway in the front right here, a pool, and a patio. To the rear of the lot, you can see it in the aerial right here. We have a bordering vegetated wetland that kind of directly abuts this lawn area. Here's the ortho or the USGS of the site. As you can see, that the wetland behind the property is mapped on this as well. So the applicant is looking to build a retaining wall, which can be seen right here. This is going to be the retaining wall. We're also looking to put in a landscaped area, a natural stone step, which can be seen right here, and then also a footpath. And these stone steps will be created out of natural features such as boulders and rocks. And this landscaped area is going to be encompassed by small pavers, and that's going to be what's going to be rebuilding of these walls. So they're going to be replacing these pavers around it, placing plants in there, and then we're going to have that all connected to by these by this little path right here. Again, here's the retaining wall that's going to kind of keep everything inside. All of this work will be taking place within the 50 and 100 foot buffer zones. Here is our erosion control barrier that is outlined kind of in this thicker line. This plan is a little bit incorrect as the tree line was missurveyed. So we're also proposing a mitigation plan. So we're proposing to plant all through the outside where my cursor is right here. I think it's right around 245 square feet as it currently stands. However, once this tree line gets resurveyed, we're going to be submitting a more robust mitigation plan. And I think it's going to be somewhere around 2,000 square feet with many more plantings than what I'm going to show you in just a second. So we're currently working through those changes. I know Melissa had spoken to Andrew about this. So once this is all resurveyed, you're going to get a full new mitigation plan. We just didn't have time tonight to be able to submit it last week and then be able to present it tonight. So here's our mitigation plan as it currently stands. Again, this will expand. This is just what we submitted with the notice of intent, not knowing that this tree line was so off on the plan. So currently we have 6 plants that are proposed. We have 2 witch hazels, 2 service berries, and 2 high bush blueberries. At the next hearing, you'll see again a more robust mitigation plan to that will be all planted throughout this whole section down here. And it's also going to have a change in the erosion control barrier. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to the commission to answer any questions that you might have or just address any comments.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
I've got a question about the within the existing tree line. Could you describe to me the vegetation within that tree line? Is it mature trees? Is it scrub? Is it?
It's a lot of mature trees with a few shrubs dotted here and there. So this is really just going to naturalize that and add a bunch more shrubs to that whole area. There's big gaps between those trees, so these shrubs will fit in nicely and kind of fit into the vegetation that's in the surrounding area. I mean, these trees are, witch hazel is an upland plant. Serviceberry is more of a wetland plant, and highbush blueberry. So I would assume that the serviceberry and the highbush blueberry be planted more towards the wetland side, as those need the hydrology, and then the witch hazels will be planted back more towards the property.
Okay, I guess the purpose of my question is if it's appropriate to include, more of an upper story as well, if that's what the existing area is.
So you'd like to see some trees also proposed in this?
Yeah, I guess if Tom has taken a look at this, I'd be very curious to hear what Lucas Environmental has to say on that. Other than that, I have no other comments.
Sure. For the record, Tom Liddy, Lucas Environmental. I'm covering for Joe Orzel, who is away. Joe prepared a summary memo reviewing the notice of intent application that was submitted to the commission earlier this week. maybe we'll just go through some highlights and hit some of the main points and move on from there. Joe did conduct a site visit. He had some minor changes to some of the wetland flags. Based on what we see, it wouldn't affect the limit of the 20-foot no disturb zone further up into the work area. So it doesn't seem it would affect the location of the wall or anything like that. But that was something we would like to see updated on the plan. And those exact flag numbers are listed in the memo. And then there's a couple of plan items that just need some cleaning up with just some of the labeling and it's all documented in the memo. I don't know if you want me to go by point, but I understand there's going to be a revised plan submitted anyway. So, as long as the revised plan incorporates those changes, I think we should be all set. The one thing that kind of jumped out is we looked through the notice of intent application and the abutter notice letter. In the PDF does not have the name of the applicant or the address of the property listed in the abutter notice letter. So I don't know if there's abutters here or if it's just a PDF error or if this letter went out to the abutters where the abutter getting the notice wouldn't really know what property this is for. So that's something for the commission to consider if, that should be clarified and if abutter should be re-notified, clarifying the name of the applicant as well as the property that the work is occurring on. And as Joe mentioned, we talk about the buffer zone, and I think what Tom is saying, they're going to be incorporating additional plantings and reestablishing that 20-foot no disturb zone, obviously would be a benefit. And, incorporation of more trees would certainly mitigate for the proposed work. So.
Okay, and actually, so it was Joe when I visited the site. I was going to ask you if what species predominated, but you haven't physically been to the site yet.
I haven't physically been there, so.
But I guess, Tom, if the plan is going to be updated, it sounds like as part of the mitigation, in particular within the 20-foot zone, something of an upper story with whatever's out there, whether it's white oak or red maple or whatever, just a couple to extend the existing habitat.
Mark,
Yeah, I'm looking at the DEP sheets now that were submitted with the notice of intent. It looks like there was red maple, red oak, white pine that all kind of dominated the tree layer out there. So we'll definitely incorporate some of those into our planting plan when we come back with the revised plan.
I was just going to say, I do have some photos from Joe's site visit if you wanted me to share some of just at least the tree line. It doesn't give you a great view, but at least shows you.
Thank you.
That would help, Ben. Would that be useful, Ben, if I shared that?
Yeah, if you could really quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, so I mean that is the habitat that's present immediately surrounding the site. So in restoring the 20-foot zone, I think it would be very appropriate to mirror what's already immediately adjacent.
I think that's
Thank
all.
And the only one other point to point out on the plan, it doesn't seem to be stamped by a PE or surveyor. So I think that's something that's typically required for the commission.
Not stamped or signed?
It was not stamped or signed, no.
Okay. Yeah, that's necessary. All right, so are we continuing to the next hearing?
Yes, we don't have a DEP number anyways, so.
Oh, okay. Any comments from the public? Again, raise your hand and Melissa will promote you in.
I'm not seeing any hands.
None? Okay. All right, given that, do I hear a motion to continue to the next hearing, which is October
6th.
6th?
Oh,
There a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Farrington,
Yes.
Gregory,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasquano.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. Continue. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next up is ANRAD 250 Turnpike Road. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the South Florida Wetlands Bylaw, South Florida Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, September 15th, 2022 at 7:40 p.m. Via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for project located at 250 Turnpike Road, map 27, lot 2A for the applicant David Ferris, Ferris Development Group. The project description is confirmation of resource area boundaries.
Since the last time we met, just to refresh everyone, myself and Joe met Tom and Scott Goddard and met members of Ferris Development out on the site to discuss the remaining items. And so we did come to a final agreement regarding any of the GC flags. And then I think after kind of discussion with Joe and I talked with Chris Lucas today and kind of discussing what the options are and with the applicant as well. It's kind of come down to the basins are severely unmaintained, and since this is an ANRAD that's kind of in front of us, one of the suggestions that we have had is that the commission vote tonight to issue the ANRAD, kind of verifying everything except agreeing to the conclusion of the basins. And then moving forward, the applicant will submit a notice of intent for the maintenance. And I think they have some other site work that they need to do around the property because they need to get in to replace some boilers and a generator. So there's some access issues for the existing building as well. And that kind of seems consistent. We did kind of put a question out to DEP on their thoughts, and they agreed that the commission was following the right protocols, that we've done everything that we could. So that's kind of where we're left off. And I'll let, either both Toms answer any questions that the commission may have if I can't answer them.
So the two detention basins, what I'm hearing as a proposal is that we would not make a finding of those against this ANRAD.
We would not find a finding to their accuracy or non-accuracy, I guess. So the commission can still kind of agree that they are not detention basins as labeled on the plan by having the condition as written that we are finding that all the flags as presented on the plan are accurate except for the areas labeled detention basins. And therefore the applicant to maintain or improve upon those basins will file a notice of intent for any of that work.
Okay. So in terms of the ANRAD, how does that speak to whether or not those detention basins are jurisdictional or not?
It's almost like, I hate to say remaining silent, but there's, let me pull up the ORAD form. Might maybe get a little bit simpler. So.
Because the ANRAD application is for this entire parcel.
We can own, let's see. We can choose multiple delineations on this plan. So we can choose off that the bordering vegetated wetlands are accurate, as you know, and we can even put the number of flags, the ranges, the A series, etc., that are out there. And then you know, we can put inaccurate for other resources, specifically areas labeled detention basins. The boundaries were determined accurate because they were built prior to 1996, and the applicant has agreed that work on these basins will require the submittal of a notice of intent.
Okay. Let me think about that while others have questions.
There's fully that I did not explain it very clearly is a great possibility right now.
No, Melissa, I think you did fine. I just have to process it.
Yeah.
Other commission members?
I can talk while you're thinking.
Sure.
I know one concern that the commission has, Tom, is that we were faced with a similar circumstance not too far up Route 9, where we had to not approve a project for doing work in detention basins built prior to 1996. And we, you know, we're certainly not going to act against that precedent. There are a number of things that are different here. Number one, and most importantly, being that the site is developed, unlike the other site that I'm talking about. This site has been developed, the impervious surfaces are in place, and this stormwater system has been functioning to mitigate peak stormwater flows for these existing impervious areas for a very long time. So any work done in the basin would not be altering the hydrology of the basin in any impactful way, assuming the design is done appropriately. And the wetlands that are in place within the basins, I think, can be protected even as the basins are improved to comport with current regulations. In fact, one way of maybe doing that, because of our wetlands, is to use a sort of a hybrid wet basin type design to preserve they call it a marsh bottom wet basin. I think would allow everyone involved to see what, you know, to get what they need out of an order of conditions here. We would not. We would comport with the Wetlands Protection Act, we would comport with our own precedent, and your client would have full use of the site exactly as they had planned. I think Melissa has found a wonderful way forward through this. Uh-oh.
Can I just add just a couple of quick things? I'll try to be brief.
Hold on, we lost Mark for a second.
Oh,
sorry. I just want to make sure he pops back in, possibly. I'm looking. I'm sorry. There he is. Okay, he's back.
okay. So I just wanted to add just a couple of points. I'll try to be brief. So, and Mark, this might help help you as you work through this, because it is a little convoluted and confusing with regards to the ANRAD. So basically, they submitted an ANRAD saying, you know, these are our wetlands. They did not include the basins as jurisdictional wetland resource areas. It's our opinion that those basins would be regulated as wetlands, specifically BVW, specifically because they were constructed prior to 1996. However, they are clearly constructed detention basins that have been functioning as that since then, though they have not been maintained. And there are specific provisions in the regulations that allow for maintenance of these detention basins that were constructed prior to 1996, where obviously you can go in and maintain them. And as long as you're not changing the overall function of the basin, meaning, you're not filling it, you're not, maybe you're not expanding it or just changing the hydrology of the system. So with regards to the ANRAD, I would suggest you issue an ORAD, either one, and as Melissa said, you have some options here. All the other wetland flags are agreed upon. The only thing that's been in question are these two basins. You can say, we approve the ORAD for these flags in this BVW. However, we disagree. We feel that the basin should be regulated as BVW, or you have another option of just staying silent and saying, we are not making a determination on the jurisdictional status of these basins at this time. Those are your two options. And then as going forward with this site specifically in the future, if they want to come in and maintain those basins, they can do so. We suggest either filing maybe an RDA or just coming in informally saying, hey, we want to clean the trees out, we want to clean the shrubs out. This is our plan, this is what we want to do. And the commission can review it in that fashion, either informally or through a notice of intent process. It's more the concern with changing the overall shape and dimensions or capacity and so on. So that's our opinion on the matter. And so you can, I know, and Tom, if you want to, Tom asks, if you want to respond, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that what you just said was great, and the applicant is very amenable to coming in with a notice of intent for the maintenance of these two basins. So with the notice of intent, the commission would be allowed to look over what we're proposing for the maintenance and then also have a say in how we maintain these things. So I think that's the way that we agree to move forward. I think that is a really good way that Melissa laid out in the field, and the applicant is very on board with that.
Yeah, my only reservation, and maybe it's not a very valid one, is that the NRAD application was to identify what is wet and what isn't wet on the site, right? That's what the application states, and we're going to basically come back and say, okay, we agree to, these flags identifying where the wetland is and where the wetland isn't, but these basins we're not going to deal with at this time. I just want to make sure that we're not getting ourselves in any sort of a pickle, if you will.
Oh, where the applicant could conceivably come back and say, well, they didn't say it was a wetland, so we can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think by either labeling those inaccurate or making no standing, as Tom mentioned, kind of reserves your right for, that to still be in play. And it sounds like, you can still make that finding, that regarding the statement that the applicant has made about coming in with the notice of intent. So it is part of the record in the finding of facts. And then that, I think, I understand your concern, Mark. I think there is a way to do it that you're right, because this is an ANRAD. It is just talking about wetland flags. So we agree that the BVW flags as marked on the existing condition plans are correct. But we disagree that the detention basins as they're labeled are just detention basins. But the applicant, to maintain moving forward, will submit a notice of intent so that the commission can analyze the impacts.
Right. And on the ORAD form, you can check off both accurate and list the BVW flags, and you can check off inaccurate or modified, saying the commission has made the determination that the detention basins are jurisdictional wetland resource areas. And I think that would appease your concerns, Mark, which are valid of, who knows what will happen in the future where years from now, someone will say, oh, these aren't specifically identified as wetlands, so we can fill them in. And I think that's the greatest concern with these sites, if these basins, maybe not now, not a year from now, or however many years from now, just get filled in because they weren't identified as wetland during this process. So
Exactly. Because the applicant is asking, tell me what's wet and what's not on this site. Right.
We're not looking to fill it. We're looking to kind of increase the usefulness of these detention basins on the site by maintaining them. We're kind of coming in, we're saying that we still want to use these basins. We want to fix all the pipes, all the dry wells. We're fixing the outflow pipes, which is going to obviously be a lot of work. We're not looking to fill any of these detention basins. So that's why we're looking for the notice of intent. That's why we're admittable to do that and have the commission be able to kind of have a say in what we do and how we maintain these things. So that's why we want to move forward with that route.
Yeah. No, I get all that. All that is good stuff. But, you know, the way these things are all constructed and put together, as I understand it, you know, the way the water's flowing through pipes and so forth, they are BVWs. Right. So, and what we're doing now is we're choosing not to call them that now, but deal with them as if they are in the future.
I think you're still calling them out as BVW if you wish to be that direct in your inaccurate findings, because you do put the boundaries were determined to be inaccurate because. So you can make the finding that the commission, you know, made the finding that these basins met the definition of BVW due to their construction prior to 1996, and therefore the applicant shall submit a notice of intent for maintenance.
So the way you just worded that makes me comfortable.
Okay.
It does.
I like that. I like that too. I have that because, yeah, if Ferris Development sold it in the future, I see what Mark is saying. They could sell it in the future and a new owner could come back 5 years from now, or I guess it'd be 3 years from now. And yeah, so this solves the whole problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So we would both be making a motion to issue, as my computer freezes with my brain, the accurate for.
Your brain's doing fine.
I'm really impressed with it, I have to admit. The accurate for all of the labeled BVW flags with an inaccurate finding of the detention pond flags because of their construction prior to 1996. But the commission will, you know, review a notice of intent for the maintenance of those basins moving forward.
Right. And what you mentioned about them being considered a BVW.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to get that on there.
Yeah, what I'll probably do on, I'll probably have this drafted Monday. So I can, you know, check back with either Tom or Chris on Monday, maybe have them take a look over the language just to make sure before we do the final.
Yeah, because given, as I understand it, the construction of these things and the piping and so forth, they are connected to wetlands.
Correct.
There's hydrology connections.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to jump in real quick. Somebody has their hand up. It looks like somebody wants to comment.
Yeah. So we need to bring the public in for sure.
All right. It's okay if I move them?
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
John Palmer, you should have the ability to speak.
Yes, hi, thanks. John Palmer at 130 Parkerville Road. So a couple of questions for the commission, and they're kind of related. So I'm wondering what the total square footage or acreage of the wetlands, the jurisdictional wetlands are. How much of that square footage or acreage is on the industrial zone lot versus the residential A zone lot, and whether or not the basins are included in those wetlands delineations.
I don't know if we'd have that specific breakdown, Tom. I don't know if you do.
I'm just looking at the plan very briefly, just kind of eyeing it. I would say that 75% of the wetland that was delineated on the property is within the residential sector, and that includes both of the detention basins, the intermittent stream with BVW surrounding, and then the other 25% that is bordering the 3-story building where the bridge goes across, and then also adjacent to the parking lot is in the industrial zone. I don't have exact numbers of that, but just giving it a quick eye, that's what it looks like to me.
But Tom, so no estimate as to how much of square footage or acreage is designated wetlands?
Oh, probably right around 2.5 acres is wetland. Maybe a little less, maybe 2 acres of wetland. But that's just a very rough guess, just looking at the plans with my eyes.
Yeah, we don't require a percentage per lot or just per resource area
or by zone.
or by zone.
I'm curious, John, as to your source of your question.
I'm just wondering if this triggers anything at the in way of special permitting requirements at the MIPA or the DEP level.
This is just the confirmation of the wetland resources on the site. We're not proposing anything at this time. We're just looking for the confirmation of the wetland resources.
Yeah, but I guess I'd really want to know if the basins are included in those wetlands delineations or not, for that reason.
This is an existing development. They're not developing new areas, so this wouldn't hit any of the MIPA thresholds, I think is what you're if I understand your question correctly.
Yeah, but there is a forthcoming proposal that might meet some of those thresholds.
Right. So this process here is just identifying what's wet, what's not. Once they understand that, I imagine the applicant, I don't want to speak for them, but they'll probably come forward with some sort of, further development plan for whatever they want to do or not do there. And then we would have to deal with those sorts of questions and issues you bring up at that time.
So the delineation at this time would count towards any special permitting at that time?
Yeah, this is just identifying what is jurisdictionally wetland and what isn't. And then they can take that and go off and use that information as they try to build out whatever they want to do.
So I guess my question still stands. So are the basins considered jurisdictional wetlands?
So as we were talking before, which was one of my consternations here, is that where they've asked for us to identify and agree to what's wet and what's not wet, leaving the basins open, I personally had a problem with, and I think that we've worked our way through that, so that we're basically saying that they are considered bordering vegetated wetlands. We will memorialize that in this response to the application.
And then one more related question. I've kind of walked that property in the past because there's deer up there and other wildlife, and I've walked it in the springtime. There's some sort of intermittent stream that runs from the west southwest to the east northeast section of the property, and then it runs across Parkerville and down the hill. So everything kind of rolls down hill from Sarsonstone through the property and across Parkerville. That doesn't seem to be delineated in your wetlands delineation.
John, all wetland resources that are deemed jurisdictional by both Goddard and Lucas, who were peer reviewers of the project, everything on the site that is deemed jurisdictional has been flagged and has been peer reviewed at this point.
And I think, Tom, would this be the one where we were talking about with Joe that's just slightly off site that's coming from Deerfoot? That's, I think, the detention basin overflow, maybe what he's talking about.
Perhaps, but there was also another intermittent stream that we did end up flagging during peer review too. So that also could be it as well. And he may be just looking at an older plan at this point. But all wetland resources have been looked at by two separate entities and the commission, and that's all that's out there at this point.
Is there a way that myself and abutting abutters can get a copy of the final delineation of wetlands?
Yeah, John, if you would send me an email, I'd be happy to forward it back to you.
Okay.
I see another hand raised.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yes.
Hey, Eric Laser from 9 Skylar Drive. So to follow on your point, Mark, around, and by the way, I think the clarity at the end was helpful to understand what is delineated, formally identified, and then the basin-based wetlands, which have been identified but not formally delineated. and I just want to make sure I'm clear on this, with what you're doing, it would absolutely make it enforced within the record to be identified that if there were future development on the residential property, that indeed those ambiguous wetlands, as we've described them, in other words, not formally recognized or delineated, but they exist, the developer would have to do an assessment of those wetlands, formally identify them, flag them, et cetera, and then build that into any future plan that's development. Is that right? That guarantees that happens, so that way the developer can't circumvent it, they can't fill them in. To your point, I think that's a real concern of mine, that the property gets sold, right? But that process guarantees that it's part of the record, and the developer has to include those in some way, shape, or form for future development.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was my concern.
Yep.
That if we don't clearly articulate what we consider those to be at this point in time, then we could potentially box ourselves in a corner.
And then maybe there's a question for Tom around, in the follow on John's question around the square footage or the acreage of the wetlands that are delineated. If you say it's about 2 to 2.5 acres, that would exclude these basin-based wetlands, which could in theory add additional area to the delineated wetlands. Yeah.
I know that the basins themselves are right around 4,000 square feet, if that helps. I can't speak to how much wetland is out there. I can see if there's a linear footage that we submitted in our cover letter or in our, just give me 1 second, let me take a look. So I measured a total of 2,501 linear feet of wetland flagged on the property. So.
And just to make sure I'm clear on this, if the residential area were to be developed, and I appreciate what you're trying to do today is just to identify what's wet, what isn't, the developer would have to, one, identify the amount or the square footage, or acreage, whatever the specification is, and then based on whatever requirements of the Massachusetts Department of EPA, if it exceeds some threshold of review, I assume that the developer would have to go through a process through the state, given the size of the wetlands, to determine if there was any impact on the scope of the development, right?
So in the state of Massachusetts, you're not allowed to fill 5,000 square feet or more of wetlands. The Conservation Commission will have jurisdiction over any work that's taking place in the 100-foot buffer zone. So they're already going to be seeing any notice of intent that comes across them.
Okay.
I'm not saying that anything is proposed at this point, but we wouldn't even be able to fill that much wetlands on the state without having to go through a numerous amount of permits.
And I think there might be some confusion. It doesn't matter kind of how much wetlands are on the site. It matters how much you're disturbing either land or wetland itself.
Oh, understood. I get it.
Okay. So the square footage of the amount of wetlands on site doesn't really trigger any state filings regardless of the project. It's just when they go to disturb any amount.
Right. And there's a buffer zone around. I appreciate that this is some basic information, but so we're learning it, but there's a buffer zone around the wetlands as well. And the developer would have to take that into account, not to disturb, not to encroach in the buffer zone, and then build whatever they're going to build around that. Yeah.
Correct. And our local wetlands bylaw is more restrictive. I believe it's 3,500 square feet of wetland that they can alter, and we have a 2-to-1 replication rate. So we are a little bit more restrictive than the state level too.
Listen, can I just jump in real quickly, Mr. Glazer? I just one point here. That any proposed project work can take place within the buffer zone. It's the work that takes place within the buffer zone that the Conservation Commission has jurisdiction over.
Sure.
Work taking place outside of the buffer zone doesn't fall under the Wetlands Protection Act. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure it sounded like you thought the buffer zone itself was also exclusionary to development. And
okay. Poor nomenclature. Poor nomenclature there. Yeah. No, that's helpful. No, I appreciate that. That's all I have. Thank you.
And just to elaborate, anything that gets filled, as Melissa mentioned, Tom from Goddard mentioned that, up to 5,000 square feet. Well, our bylaw restricts it to 3,500 square feet, and we asked them to replicate 2-to-1, which means if they fill 35, they're going to give us back 7,000. Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
I don't see any other hands from the audience.
Okay. So I think at this point we can close on the ANRAD, but I want to be really, really specific on what the wording is within the the ORAD that we issue.
Okay.
So I think that between the minutes and the recording, we should have very clear understanding of what we want to have that say, right, in terms of the basins being BVWs. Any work that will be done to them in the future will require NOI, right? Even if they go in there with a pair of shears.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, and I will, just run that by either Chris, Tom, or Joe before I issue it, just for their final look over, if the commission is good with that.
Okay, so I think at this point we can close. All right, do I hear a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right, Farrington,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasquino.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
We're up at 7:50 hearing, a few minutes behind. This is an NOI and SMP for 200 Turnpike Road. They've asked for a continuance.
Correct.
The continuance is to the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Do I need to read it? Can we just continue?
Nope, we can just continue.
All right. Do I hear a motion to continue the NOI and SMP for 200 Turnpike Road to the next hearing?
Move.
There's a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Farrington,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasquino.
Yes.
Perfect. Tom, I don't think there's anything else we would need you for unless you feel so inclined to stick around.
No, I think I'm good. As enjoyable as this always is. Yeah, I think I'll sign off here. Melissa, if there's any stuff with the ORAD or anything else,
Okay.
I'm around. Chris is away, but I'm around and
Okay,
he'll be
perfect.
around, so feel free to send it my way.
All right, thank you so much.
All right.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
All right. Good night. Thanks.
Bye.
Okay. New and/or continued business. Chestnut Hill Farm Management Plan. I
Yeah.
saw you sent some information around earlier today, Melissa.
Yeah, and DA and Mike Francis are here again tonight. So we had a discussion, myself, Kevin, Ben, and members of the trustees along with Whit Beals and Freddie Gillespie from Open Space to talk about mostly the bobolink habitat. So they've made some minor tweaks to that section that I think were the coming out of what the meeting was. So I'll let DA or Mike take it away.
Good evening. How are you all?
Well, thanks.
Thank you for having us. We at the last Conservation Commission meeting, we agreed that we wanted to meet with Open Space personally and connect Freddie in particular with our lead ecologist at the trustees, and also bring in our agroecologist. So, and Ben and Kevin also expressed interest in attending that meeting. So we met on, what was it, August 23rd at the farm, and had a very productive meeting from our perspective, at least, that it was great to kind of have everybody together to talk about the nesting birds, the habitat, what the Whit Beals also attended that meeting. I'm sorry, I forgot to include Whit in that. To talk about the nesting bird habitat, to talk about practices, about work that we're doing at other properties, to kind of share insights and perspectives. And what really netted out of that was to include a little bit more robust language in the management plan. And so what I did was sent to everyone the paragraph that has, as it stood when we submitted on July 7th, and then added to that the new language, so you could see the difference and you can compare the two, just because we thought that would be an easier way to look at this. The key here is that one of the things that we talked about was the management plan in July said approximately 10 acres. We're currently managing 12.5 acres of grassland bird habitat. So Freddie made a point of saying, could we make that a minimum of 10 acres? That way we knew we would always be at least at that amount and then could expand from there as we currently are. So we included that. And then we also added language that said, it was just a little bit stronger, that said including a focus on providing favorable bobolink habitat, which will be monitored annually by the trustees agroecologist and trained agriculture and ecology staff, referring to our team, or trained volunteers. And this is a really interesting part of the conversation because, you know, the Open Space Commission has done a phenomenal job working with volunteers over the years. And the trustees also has a very robust volunteer program. So we talked about what we could do to bring more people to the farm to be trained to really be looking at some of these, you know, nesting bird habitats. And, you know, Ben, you could probably add some color to that, but we just thought it was great, and we thought it was important enough that we wanted to put it into the management plan as well, because it's a nice way to share knowledge and to get the community more involved in the property. So those were the changes, and then a little typo that you see. But other than that, that's what we talked about. Does that pretty much recap it, Ben?
Yes, and you know, it was great to see that there's some potential for partnering with Open Space in this cadre of volunteers that have been organized and have been working very hard out at Breakneck Hill on specifically on pollinator issues. And it seems like there's a fantastic opportunity here to for both the trustees and for Open Space to grow a partnership here. It would be great to see. Reading through the proposed changes for bobolink habitat, it looks fantastic. The one comment I would make is that I don't think this has been forwarded to Open Space, and they've been a kind of a vital part of this. And I think they, you know, they need to be included just in the final review here. And I apologize. I didn't know that as recently as Monday, it looked like Chestnut Hill Farm was not going to be on the agenda tonight, and I understand that changed. But I spoke with Freddie on Monday, when we were both the understanding that we wouldn't be discussing it tonight, and we were talking about during our discussion at the farm, the trustees weren't. You simply weren't in a position where you could talk about your plans for farming on the property. You know, you've got there's a lot in flux right now, looking for a farmer and so forth. It sounds like I heard, you know, third or fourth hand that it sounds like you've made some decisions in that regard and discussed them, I guess, with some property owners at the site. And it sounds like you've got some great plans regarding farming for next year. But at the meeting that we had, I left with the impression that we are going to be discussing again the plans for farming to get that incorporated into the management plan. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. That was
yeah. That wasn't what. Well, let me back up for you.
No, of course.
Yes, you're right about everything. You know, you're totally in sync on everything that we've talked about. We had a gathering for the neighbors of Chestnut Hill Farm. I guess it was 2 days after we met in the barn. We invited the neighbors to come and to meet some other folks within the trustees, but also they had not really seen the final new Deerfoot barn. They had not seen all the other things that we were doing at the farm. They also had not met our new education manager. So we really thought that it was a great time to get everyone together to just meet everyone, to talk, and to answer any questions that they had. So I think there are two things going on here. When we met on the 23rd, it was not our impression that we were going to add anything more about farming to the management plan, because it's pretty clear. It talks about veg and livestock and, the grazing practices and all of that. What we talked about at the little gathering that we had with the neighbors was that we are actively, as we said to you, actively looking for a new farmer, and that title is called Field Crop Manager. So that's what we're looking for. And we also answered some questions about the animals, the livestock that are on the property. One of the things we talked about was how we had reduced the goat herd for the health of the herd, and that we were never going to be at the level that we were, I guess, as early as about a year and a half ago, when there were a lot of goats at the property. We talked about continuing to keep sheep and do lambing at the property, that we have a couple of rams that, live kind of down towards the main road. And we talked about the chickens that are on the property, but that's the extent of what we covered.
Like I said, I heard it third or fourth hand.
Yeah.
So
No, that's fine.
Yeah. In terms of the discussion of farming within the management plan, I know I brought up very briefly, because I know you guys just weren't in a position where you could discuss it, but some setting some sort of outer bounds of your expectations of what your plans are. And again, these are outer bounds that you would be comfortable with, simply so that they're memorialized in the management plan, mostly to force, to answer ahead of time any questions that come in to the commission, as with the CR under our care and control. What are they doing out there? Is this allowed under the CR or the management plan? Well, we have some outer bounds that say, the herd of goats and sheep will be limited to, 100 or fewer, or, the amount of land under cultivation will be fewer than 30 acres, or I don't know, but I'm saying literally that kind of generalized outer bound. That would.
I think that would be tough to do.
Okay.
And it's not something that's really required in the CR. Farming is so, and I'm not a farmer, but my experience with all of this is that it's fairly fluid, and there are so many outside factors that we've never done anything like that before. Okay. If it's something that, if you feel strongly about and you want us to consider, I think we probably have to have something in writing from you all that are requesting that outside of the parameters of the CR. But I think we're pretty clear here in this management plan with our commitment to livestock and to vegetable production at the farm. And that's really, really important to us. And it's really important to the community. And we've gone on record several times saying that. So, I'm happy to go on record again this evening saying that it's very important, and the future of the farm as a provider of food is, why we're there. So the food, the education, the ability to be inclusive and to bring people to the farm and share in all of that's really what the plan is.
Understood. And again, the intent is not to impose any sort of limitation, more a description of future plans. I understand what you're saying, and unless the rest of the commission feels strongly about it, it's not certainly something I'm not going to push. I would like to, Open Space was very concerned about the preservation of bobolink habitat. They were the drivers on this, and I really do think it's appropriate for them to have a review of the final product. I will say, boy, having Whit Beals at the meeting was wonderful. He's lived on the property, well, he told us he had left the property for about 20 years there at one point. I may have that period wrong, but through his childhood and then later in life, he spent so much time there and was very familiar with the bobolinks and their historical habitat and what he theorized may have caused a reduction, and his ideas for bringing them back and so forth. It was great to have him there. I gotta say.
He's fantastic, and he's done so much to help people understand the history of the farm. We're a couple of things just as an aside, because I just think you all will be interested. We are putting on the back side of the new Deerfoot barn, where the patio area is looking out to the view shed. We're doing a large interpretive panel that is the history of the property, and Whit is working with. We asked him if he would work with our team to do that, and of course he very graciously said yes. But the other thing that he did this summer, when we had the summer camp, he came one day a week and he talked to those little ones about the history of the farm, and just regaled them with stories about the animals and the antics, and they were just beside themselves. They were so thrilled. So he's very, very special, and we're lucky to have him. You know, he and Pam living across the street.
Fantastic.
Melissa, in answer to Ben's question about the additional language in the paragraph about the would be willing to share with Freddie.
Yeah, I'd be happy to forward that to her. I'll do that tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Ben, Mark just had to step away for a moment.
Sure.
If you want to step in.
Yeah. So, yeah, Kevin, Russ, anything to add? The changes are specifically about sort of restoring the bobolink population on the property back to its former glory, and the language looks fantastic, especially after all that Kevin and I learned at our meeting with the trustees, agroecologists.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to this end of any of it.
Okay.
Knock yourselves out on the farm. I'm all for it.
Thank you, Russ.
No, I was fine with the bobolink language. I thought it was great. I understand what you're asking about the outer bounds, so that it would give the commission the ability to say, look, it's in the management plan. They're allowed to do this. Just that's all.
Yeah.
Final answer, right?
Yeah, I don't feel like we'd be necessarily heading off disaster with it. It's something I can see it being helpful in the future, which is why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so Melissa will be forwarding that to off to open space, and it looks like we'll 3 weeks from now have a management plan together.
Terrific. Thank you all very much, as always.
Perfect. DA, do you want me to copy you on my email to Freddie just in case she has any comments back?
That'd be super. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
All right.
Great, thanks.
All right, you all have a good
Bye.
evening.
You as well.
All right, bye.
Bye. Okay, Scenic Road bylaw discussion?
I haven't received any updates, and I guess, Mark, just for your knowledge, at the last meeting, Marnie from planning gave us an update of some of the revised discussions they've had between planning board and historical commission. So I believe she was going out to look at those, I think 68 streets that were proposed as scenic, do a report on them. So I haven't had any follow-up on that, but I know that they are working on it. So it's on the town meeting warrant. I think at this point, I don't know if we'd be able to get an official acceptance on the warrant itself. But if we still want to make a vote prior to a special town meeting in October, I think we have our first meeting that's before it. So we still have some time.
Okay,
That's it on that.
already. And since you're under the weather, Melissa, we're gonna skip number 4 here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, guys, for the delay, but I'll get it next time.
Yeah. Do you have COVID again?
No, just bad headaches.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that. Okay. Anything else to discuss tonight?
Well, I think you guys all saw my email about the active sites, coming out of the rain. We had kind of our typical, silt and erosion issues, mostly on Lorenzo. It was coming down. There's that issue at they call it the town center plaza where Dunks and USPS is, that has the bunch of the landscaping where it's kind of that in between where it's not quite jurisdictional. But I know me and, Russ have been kind of taking a look at it when they're working. They've just left a lot of stockpiles there for their landscaping that is around catch basins. They did confirm that they will be looking at them and doing the assessment after they're completed with the work. I did get the inspection records for the last, I think, 5 years for that property. And it was last at, I think, 20 inches of sediment that was within the catch basin. They said they cleaned it at 2 feet, or they clean it when it gets to 2 feet. So I'm going to assume that it'll need to be cleaned out by the end based on what I saw looking down. But other than that, we have the 2 SMPs that were here tonight. And I think the other Meadow Lane project on the other runway will be starting shortly to help the that trench drain that's happening alongside to help the septic. So I'll be doing those erosion control inspections next week. And then otherwise, updates on the dump. They did do the test pitting, or they are doing it this week. They've been out there the last 2 days. And my last conversation with Taylor from TRC, who is our LSP, was that on the test pits that are closest to the property boundaries, there was evidence of debris within 5 feet depth, like metal drums and or just metal and cinder blocks and the typical material that we've seen throughout the dump. So I did send that information to the group with DEP, who has the ACO, along with the abutter Alexis. I have not heard anything back. So both from DEP or Alexis, my assumption that we are going to have to do test pits on the abutting property based on the recommendations from LSP, but we're just waiting on the final recommendation from DEP. And again, I've kind of reminded the abutter that if they choose not to kind of authorize the town to go on their property to conduct these test pits, if DEP is enforcing or requiring those to be done on their property, then it would then be at the cost of the property owner, unfortunately, if they don't provide access for the town. So hopefully that does come back favorable. Most likely, I think just based on the timeline as of right now, we would probably have to remobilize equipment, unfortunately. So that is something we are taking into consideration, but everything else went smoothly as per now, and I will keep you updated on that. And then the only other three things we have is to issue the 2 SMP decisions and then make the final issuance for the ANRAD. I think that's it.
Okay.
So for 20 and 22 Meadow, I didn't have anything specific other than our standard conditions. So I don't know if we want to just do those ones first.
Yeah.
And you could probably even put them in one motion if you guys so choose, because they're going to be the same.
Okay. Any discussion?
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
No, that's fine.
Motion to issue a stormwater management permit as discussed. 2 permits as discussed for 20 and 22 Meadow Lane.
Perfect.
For a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Farrington.
Yes.
Gregory.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, and then for the ANRAD, I'm just gonna do kind of the basic motions for you guys to agree with. I'm gonna then put in the specific wetland flags. The detention basin flags are also numbered, so I'm going to specifically outline those within the inaccurate one. So we will be making a motion to for one, that the boundaries of the bordering vegetated wetlands, as numbered, blah, 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 are accurate, but also number C, that the resource areas labeled detention pond number D1 through etc. Are inaccurate. The commission finds that these detention basins are jurisdictional bordering vegetated wetlands, and the applicant or subsequent property owner shall file a notice of intent for the maintenance or improvement of these designated areas.
Sounds good. Sounds right.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll put the specific regs of the 1996 blah blah blah.
Yeah.
The good stuff will come
All that
later.
good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, my brain don't work that way right now.
Got it. You're functioning fine.
At least it's coming out the way that I'm thinking about it. It wasn't earlier, so that's really impressive.
Oh, good.
All right, so I think we just need a motion. Would be good.
A motion as Melissa stated.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
All right, Farrington,
Yes.
Gregory,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
Don't sound so dejected, Russ.
I was more thinking about the stupid form that I had to sign in order to get back on the board.
I'm just so thankful you went and got sworn in.
And the fact that I have to print my name and sign my name, and then right below that, print my name and sign my name, because that's the way the form is. Are you kidding me?
Well, I appreciate you. That's
We
all.
running out of ink or something?
It's just the stupidity of it.
Oh, before I forget, I did send out right before the meeting an email from the Board of Health regarding the Ken sound barrier wall. So I can either put this, I'm going to check on the timelines that they're looking for. So I'll either put this on our next agenda, or I'll take a look over it and put some comments together. My understanding, and I apologize, I haven't been following this closely with Board of Health, is that they've been doing the sound study at Ken's Foods, and coming out of that, they have addressed or proposed some alternatives for sound barriers, and they've come to I guess, or the Board of Health maybe has come to a mutually agreeable kind of wall that they've chosen. So they have put it out to planning and conservation for any comments, because it will be like the one that's existing. I believe the one that they chose is going to be on a periphery of pavement. So there will be within the buffer zone, and I think most likely in the 20-foot no touch, but I can double check that. So just a heads up on that. I'm going to dig more into that earlier next week.
Got it.
Now I'm really done.
Okay. With that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Farrington,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, everyone. I will talk to you soon.
Night, everyone.
All right.
I feel
Good
better,
night.
Melissa.
Thank you.